Well, let's talk about it. You know what I'm gonna talk about. Or maybe you don't, but let's go anyways. Hey, so, autism in media. Autistic coded characters. They are easy to find if you know what you're looking for. And boy, do I have a couple of characters from a show that I've come to fancy recently. And I think we should talk about it. One of those characters should be um Amity and Hooty from the Owl House. Yes, I'm talking about that new spanking Disney. I don't really say that word. Whatever. Point being, there are two characters from a new show on Disney Channel that premiered this last year, which I've been looking forward to for a while because it has the potential to be a dark yet funny yet mystical show. I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. Plus the fact that it has such great voice talent on it. Like, we even have Katara from The Last Airbender playing Amity Blight, who starts out as Luce, the main character's rival, turned frenemy, turned friend, and spoilers ahead, potential love interest. Ooh. And then we also have Hooty, who everyone comes to know as that character that is fun to make fun of. However, I think there's more to Hooty than meets the eye. I think there's more to Amity than meets the eye. Now let's look into those eyes, all deep and such. Let's talk about the more obvious one. Let's go for my attempt at being Hooty. I guess technically a better attempt would be more like, ooh, someone in trouble. You see, that's a little better. It's not there, but it's like, it's a work in progress. I enjoy doing voice impressions. It's a fun thing that I enjoy doing. I will do more later on. Or maybe I won't. Anyways, so Hooty. Starts out as this character that everyone is either creeped out by or annoyed by. I mean, understandable in that it's an owl head with a ridiculously long neck. And he says a lot of creepy things from time to time. Like, it's understandable. Like, there's nowhere in my brain where I'm like, why would you ever assume that Hooty's not creepy? But then I started thinking about it. I thought about Amity first, but then I was like, no. I mean, Amity as well, but Hooty, you're showing some autism traits. So, one of the things that I've noticed looking at my own experience as the autistic is that I don't always know what to say. And maybe I do sometimes, but that's through a lot of learning through interactions with people. But do you strike Hooty as someone that people have long conversations with? No. So he doesn't always have the most appropriate things to say. And so sometimes he will say some inappropriate things where you're like, whoa, stop. Or somebody you're just like, oh, please. Which I noticed that for me and some autistic people that I've met is that sometimes we don't necessarily know when it's the most completely appropriate thing, especially when it comes to reading people. Like, neurotypical people, generally speaking, will read a situation and they could tell when someone is uncomfortable. But for autistic people, for neurodivergent people, not so much the case. We can't really, well, we're not the best at reading people. And depending on where you're at in your autism, you also might not at all. I've learned enough to be able to, for the most part, read people. but that doesn't mean I read people well. Like, I'll still find my moments where I'm like making a joke and it's not the most appropriate joke, and people are like, could you stop? And in my head, I'm like, this is hilarious. This is one of the best jokes I've come up with. Why do you want me to stop? In fact, I'm getting annoyed because I'm not understanding why this is so inappropriate. You've said inappropriate stuff. How is what I'm saying more inappropriate? Being able to read people. And I feel like Hooty is the same way. Doesn't really know how to read the room. And so, because of that, people often find him annoying. Which to me, I'm like, the more I've watched him, the more I've come to love him. Which is why I've also made TikTok videos about him. Which I'll probably start doing again. Because I mean, Hooty's the best! He's a hoot. I wished I could tell you that was a fake orchestrated laugh. It really wasn't. Anyways, I feel like that's one of the ways that he shows part of his autism in there. And which is interesting just because not every autistic person is a monolith. We're all different. We all show autism in different ways. But for Hooty, I would say that's where he is in. And spoilers ahead for the rest of the video. So, season 2. And that's why it was so important to me when Lulu ended up becoming Lilith. That's the word I meant to say, not Lily. Lulu to Hooty. Because it is sometimes so rare to find someone that actually understands us, not tolerates us. Because for me, the rest of the Owl House tolerates Hooty, which a lot of times you'll see in families of autistics, is that a lot of times the autistic member of the family feels alone in the family because the rest of the family either doesn't really understand their child all that much and either tries but not succeeds, or a lot of times they don't even try and they just kind of ostracize them. They're like, yeah, cool. And that's the way I see the Owl House family treats Hooty. Which is why Lulu's interactions with him is completely different. Because you actually see, like, don't get me wrong, they can be annoying to each other. However, Lulu, you can see Lulu actually enjoying Hooty's presence. Like, when she makes a joke and she actually is like, your humor is infectious. You see Hooty behind her and he's like, oh. It's adorable. It's adorable and I love it. I'm like, I'm here for this. I'm here for this friendship. It's great. It's great stuff. And so, which is why when you see Lulu leave the Owl House to live with her parent, you see how heartbroken he is? This is possibly, for him, this is the only person that's ever truly enjoyed his existence, actually appreciates him, and actually wants to be friends. Not just tolerates, but actually enjoys his presence. And the way that his reaction towards that was very autistic. I see you, Hooty. I see you, Hooty fans. Believe it. Comment your thoughts on Hooty below. Okay, now let's shift over to Amity. So, Amity Blight, a little bit tougher cookie. Some would say it's a raisin nut cookie. Anyways, so with Amity, you may be saying, whoa, she's just an uptight person. Uptight? Wrong. I mean, yes, but not for the exact reasons you would automatically think of. But no. let's look at her in a different way, shall we? When we're first introduced to Amity Blight, we are shown her to be someone that's uptight, that is rude to loose, and let's ignore that episode. Or let's examine it, but also ignore it. Because the way they decide to use her henceforth kind of changes. But let's go. So, the way that poop flies in the ocean. The way that poop flies in the ocean. When we first see Amity, we see her as someone that is by the book. She has to do everything right. There is no, like, in between. There is no, you were okay one day and then you're horrible. No, it was just you're either great or you're horrible. When I think about that, I think about a lot of times with how society treats autistic people is that if you're not good at something, if you're not good, then there's no point in you even trying. And so the obsession with having to do things right the first time, I feel that. Again, going off of my own personal experience, because every autistic person is different. So for me, growing up a lot of times, I did not do a lot of things because I believed if I wasn't good at it, I wasn't going to try. And so if I was good at something, then I'm going to try my hardest. And so when I forget her name, please comment her name down below. But when Flower Girl, I know her name. It's not coming to me. But when Flower Girl, with Luce's help, got the better grade than Amity, that set her off because it was like, no, I'm the only one who could be really great at this subject. You can't possibly be as good as me and better. Cause like that's just a thing sometimes where like for myself, like when it comes to voice acting, I enjoy doing impressions. And so sometimes when I was younger, when anyone was better at a voice than me, I was like, essentially I would try to like own them at it, being like, no, I'm sorry, that was okay. Clearly my Darth Vader impression was better. And I started to realize that like it's fine for us both to be good. Just because I'm better doesn't make yours any less good. And more importantly, just because I happen to be good at it, that doesn't have to take away from you. But because so often in society we're trained for this all or nothing mentality, and autistic people tend to like really hone in on that, it makes it so much harder to us to just enjoy a thing without having to be perfect. Because if we're not perfect at some of the only stuff we're good at, then society's like, you're useless, throw you away, get out of here, bozos. True story. Which is why the more episodes later, you see this like resentment because towards her, because she doesn't believe that she is good enough to be there. Because like, how can you be good enough to be here when I've worked my butt off trying to be good at the one thing I'm good at, and you're able to just be here? And that autistic people often not are having to work on so many things just to be considered okay at something. Being able to emote emotions, being able to show it in our face, in our body language, being able to mask, and being able to just do things that neurotypical are able to do is such hardship. The amount of energy that it takes to do all this if you're not autistic, you may never truly understand how much you put into that. And so to see sometimes people just being able to do what you're trying to do, what you've worked super hard to do, and you see them do that either with ease, or they don't even have to try hard and they're already doing something. I think that is a exhausting thing to see, because you're like, wow. And I've been trying for hours, days, whatever, just to be able to do something close to that. And you just did it all in one go. And I think that's some of the irritation that she feels towards Luce. And because she doesn't understand Luce's behavior, because it's hard to really be able to read people's behavior, especially if you're not used to them and if they're new to you. Just like everyone. But I feel like with autistic people, unless we are familiar with how someone really talks and jokes around, so a lot of times you may not even really know if someone's joking or not. And so for a lot of the way that Amity viewed Luce in the beginning was very much, you're making fun of me, you're judging me, which was not all what Luce was judging as far as the rudeness towards the flower girl, which I will remember later. But yeah. And so let's skip ahead. Again, spoiler territory. Remember this. Season 2. At this point in time, she's developed a crush on Luce. But yeah, so like she's developed this crush. And what I like about this is that because at this point in time, she's starting to not mask as much. She's starting to be more herself. And you see that with how her parents were around her, because before she always had to believe she had to keep a very specific mask around her parents. And then when you actually see them being, and when they actually begin to see her not performing the way that she used to, often than not, you will find autistic friends and families to them to only accept a very specific version of them. But if they ever begin to unmask, show their true self, unfortunately, a lot of times they tend to no longer enjoy them as much because they enjoyed the mask more than the actual person, which is, like everyone else, just a person that just wants to be who they are. Which is why Amity fights fiercely for her new friends, for Luce, because, well, for two reasons, but like, because Luce and her friends are the only people that ever actually allowed her to be just herself. They weren't trying to force a specific way of living. They weren't trying to force her to be whoever. They were just accepting her as her. And she liked that about them. With how Luce treated her, how Luce fought for her. That was one thing that she liked about Luce. And she wanted to go to a dance with her. So, I mean, she wanted her to be her date. She likes her. Which is why when Luce starts to show feelings towards her as well, towards one of those latest episodes, I'm sorry, she doesn't understand her feelings towards Luce. Because again, for autistics, sometimes it's hard to know what we're feeling ourselves about things, whatever, especially if it's unknown. Like love, like sometimes it's hard to be able to tell when someone wants to be your friend and when someone's using you. Or just understanding, like, what does love feel like for me? Like, when I am feeling this way towards this person, what is that even? Like, the confusion, just all of it. And then even when she dyes her hair, which is now part of the opening intro. Again, it's showing what she wants to do. Starting to have autonomy over herself, which is something that autistics have a hard time doing, because depending on where they are in their autism, it's extremely hard to have autonomy over your life. And depending on where you are with the higher needs, it's even harder. And so being able to claim what you want on your body, or how you want to present your body, how you want to present, and being able to choose that for yourself, gosh, that is ridiculously hard. Because too often we don't have a choice. And so for Amity to finally choose for herself, as far as her hair goes, that she wants her hair this way, and then when she goes in to kiss Luce on the cheek, oh, Blight notions, what? As you can tell, Team Amity Blight, Luce Amity team. That's what I meant to say. But still, I'm excited. I'm definitely gonna make another video about this soon. But that's all I have, at least for this day. Guys, I'm super excited for what we have in store. I will be telling you about more about my own autism journey, what I'm learning through my connections on the Autism Network on TikTok, and also talk about more autistic coded characters, more in depth, like this episode. So again, if you haven't already subscribed, please do. I would love to be able to talk more about this, more in depth. Again, like, if you want to talk about Hooty more, I'm your guy. If you want to talk about Amity more, I'm your guy. And then Luce, because again, Luce, we're going to have to talk about her soon, because again, this show is riddled with autistic coded characters. But yeah, please comment your thoughts below on the analysis of both and what's your thoughts on it. And again, I would love to hear more thoughts. So please subscribe. Love to talk more. I hope to see you soon on my next video, which will either be talking about my own personal journey on autism or more autistic coded characters. Which again, it's gonna be cool. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. I hope that you continue to stay safe, continue to wear a mask, and I'll catch you later. It'll be a